Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video for Phantasy Star Online-2 New Genesis. In today's video, what we're going to be looking at is a run of the new urgent quest, Omen of the Planetbreaker. And this is the urgent quest version of the Dark Falz Solus fight. Now, Dark Falz Solus has been in the game for a little while. He's been available as there's a section in Retem you can go to and you can actually access this quest. But the version that you access in Retem is a more difficult version. It's got a tighter time limit and it also has a 5 death limit. So it's actually really difficult. So the urgent quest is relaxed from that somewhat, in that you have the full the full time to beat it, and there's also no death limit as well. But what I want to do is, for anyone who might be struggling with Solus, I've now done it a couple of times, and I've got a rough idea of how the fight works. So I want to just do like a quick run through of Solus and show you how the fight progresses, point out a few key attacks that he does and how to avoid them, and also point out any mistakes that I might make during the run as well. This is a pre-recorded run that I did earlier. I know I haven't started the video yet, but I will start the run in a second. So I'm doing this two-player with one of my friends. He is running a ranger, and I'm running a force. But because it's an urgent quest, it is an 8-player urgent quest. So what we're going to do is get the run started, and I will point out things as we go. Just to forewarn people, the first time you do Dark Falz Solus, expect that you probably will die quite a lot. He has a lot of very, very strong attacks, and some of them, particularly in his second phase, are quite overwhelming at times, and it does take a little while to get used to all the different attacks that you can throw together. So don't be too ashamed if you do die quite a lot on the first few times. But hopefully this will help you recognize some of his patterns and what to do for them. So without further ado, we'll get started on the run, and I'll point things out as we go. So when the run starts, this is his first phase. It'll be in a very, very small arena. You can actually attack him during this cutscene, as you can see people doing there. So when you spawn, what I find the easiest thing to do is to go around to his back immediately. He's got this little spike on his back, and what this does is it constantly launches missiles that home in on you. By destroying this, you actually negate his ability to do that, so it just gives you a bit more space to play with. You can see it launching the missiles there. So I tend to focus on his back part first. He will use those little explosions every so often around you, so just dodge those. Now, this attack here is quite a dangerous one. The main thing you want to do for that is just keep an eye on the ground and just make sure you're not in that area of the ground when the portal opens up. So once you get to this stage here, I'll just pause the video here. He will spawn these little bombs around the area. He'll spawn quite a few of them normally. And basically what you want to do with these is destroy them as fast as possible. What these will do is, while they're not destroyed, they will continuously explode every few seconds. It does pretty good damage, and it also doesn't stop him from attacking. Solus can still attack you with other attacks while he's doing this. You can see actually in this pause frame that I'm actually about to get targeted by a beam attack while he's doing the bombs, so he can chain multiple attacks together at once. So as soon as you see the bombs, they become the priority. The reason for this as well is because by destroying enough of these bombs, you actually end up weakening Solus to the point where one of his arms will become a weak point. To begin with, Solus has basically no weak points. So you want to focus on these bombs as much as possible just to try and take them out as fast as you can. Now, I did get hit there by one of his arm swipes. If he does a horizontal swipe with his arm, it does have a lot of range on it. And he does also bring his arm back quite far as well. So just be aware of that if you are around him. So there's this swipe again. You can see it does extend quite far because he extends his claws when he does it. So at the moment, we're now just attacking Solus's arms because there's nothing else to attack. But you can see we're not getting any weak point damage. So now I've made a mistake here because I'm actually attacking Solus and I haven't realised that there's actually a bomb behind him. Now that attack he did there where he slams his fist into the ground, that just creates a big shockwave, and you just want to parry that as soon as the shockwave gets to you. It does a ton of damage otherwise, so just make sure that you parry that successfully. But now that we've destroyed the bombs, what you'll notice is that one of his arms is now glowing purple. While that's the case, it's a weak point. So we just moved out the way there just to avoid that wall attack again. At the minute, we're just focusing on that arm core that's become available. And that's only appeared as a result of the bombs being destroyed. But I find Force quite a comfortable class for this because you have a really, really good parry with your rod. But all I'm doing with Force here really is just spamming uncharged grants, using my rod impact when I've got it. I'm being quite conservative with when I use my combined techs, my unified techniques, and I'm also being very careful with photon blasts and things like that as well because I don't want to waste them. So again, we've got a couple more bombs, so I'm just focused on another bomb. And I noticed that shockwave was coming over from the left, so I made sure to parry that. So you can see there is a lot going on, and this is the first phase. This is the easy part of the fight. So this part doesn't take too long to get down. You basically just want to make sure that you're destroying the bombs as soon as they show up. When the bombs are not there, if his arm is a weak point, go for his arm. If his arm's not a weak point and there's nothing else to attack, by all means go for him. But otherwise, you want to be focusing on these bombs as much as possible. But these laser beams just keep moving. They're not that much of an issue, really. And make sure that you don't run near other players either, because the last thing you want to do is get someone else killed because you've made the laser beam cross over them. So he's doing the slam again. Again, we parry that. It's quite a repetitive phase, this. It is kind of the same thing over and over again. You can see now he's got a core on his left arm as well. So again, we're just focusing on that core just to get the most out of that weak point damage. So we get our first break. Now, one of the things with Solus is that this break in particular just doesn't last long at all. You won't get much damage in on him. I do go for a photon blast here, and I'm quite lucky with when I time it. The photon blast just ends as the break ends. So after so much damage, his guard will break, and he'll become immobile for a little bit, and you can do a bit more damage to him. This quite often coincides with the break as well. So I'm just getting as much damage as I can in on that core on his chest. Once it's done, that closes off, and we go back to normal again. So now we're just going back to attacking his arms. But we're almost done with this phase now. This phase lasts until 50% HP, at which point I will just pause the video here. So he'll signal this attack. You'll also get a message from the operator as well, which says, we're getting an energy reading from under the ground, prepare to evade. And what you can see in this frame here is that the ground is actually all starting to glow red. Solus will make these pillars at different heights, and what you have to do is climb the pillars and destroy these targets as fast as you can. While these targets are still alive, this red level will continue to rise. It's basically almost like lava that will continue to rise, and it will do a ton of damage to you if it hits you. So destroy these as fast as you possibly can. This is it's almost like a DPS check. So you can see that the red level of the floor is rising up. So we're just doing as much damage as we can to try and get that destroyed. So we've got that one, but there is another one on the other side as well. I think there's only two. But you can see, the red level was quite high there. If he's successful, Solus will go into this stunned state for a while, and you can get some damage on his head on this new core that opens up. We also got a physical down there as well. So again, we're just focusing on the chest core because we've got access to it. Just getting any damage in we can. So we're now transitioning to phase 2, and this is where the fight gets real. So this is a lot more difficult this stage. He does a lot of things. So, first thing, so this attack here, what you want to do is just jump into the air for it, as much as you can. You might be able to parry if you're good, but I find it a lot easier to just jump into the air and avoid the spinning blocks. He'll do that a few times. Next up, he'll do this. All those purple areas will explode, and then he'll drop a bomb in the middle. You just want to make sure you parry that. You do get an audio cue for that as well. Now, for this stage, most people seem to target light rounds on his staff. I believe it's because you can actually damage his staff and prevent it from doing things later on. So again, we parry that nuke. He usually follows it up with that sweep as well, so just be aware of that. So again, we're just focusing on the core that's on the end of his staff. Now here you can see again there's a target on the floor. Now I got hit by that there, but he does put a target on the floor that shows you where he's sweeping. Essentially, one thing to remember on Solus is anything purple is bad. So if the floor glows purple, you probably don't want to be aware. You want to be aware of when it's going to explode. He's doing this attack again with the staves. Now, this is what I would describe as his nuke. So what he'll do, it's quite similar to the Dark Falz Aegis one, where he'll drop, you'll know if you fight Dark Falz Aegis, he does this attack where he drops some debris on the ground, and you have to hide behind it when he does these huge laser attacks that pretty much one-shot you if you get hit by them. This is basically like a more advanced version of that. So he'll start it off by he'll drop these pillars into the ground. What you want to do is position yourself so that so the pillar is between you and Solus. What will then happen with Solus is he'll actually start moving around the map and he'll rapid fire these bullet shots at you. And what you want to do then is basically run around the pillars to use the pillars as shields against those shots. And you'll finish it off with a massive laser explosion. So just make sure that you're on the opposite side to Solus. So what you'll see is, you can see he's starting to move, starting to fire those shots at us. So I'm running around the pillar to avoid them as best I can. And then you'll get this warning and he'll fire a huge beam. So you just want to make sure that you're behind that pillar. And then he'll finish it off with a forward charge that you can parry as well. Just make sure you're always keeping that pillar in between you and Solus, otherwise it will kill you. So again, he's going for this attack. So again, we jump up into the air to avoid most of the damage. With Force, this is really easy, this part, because you can just stay in the air and keep nuking. The next up, so those square areas on the ground, basically he makes the ground explode upwards, so you just need to be aware of that. Now that beam that he did there, that's a really dangerous attack, and I believe that does actually catch me out later on in the fight. For that, he does actually put a target on the ground. You just want to make sure you're not in it. I think you can parry it, but it's a really awkward timing. So we're down to about 25% now. So this is quite familiar if you fought Dark Falz double in original PSO2. But all you need to do for this is just jump through the holes in the walls. Don't get hit by the walls because they do a ton of damage to you if you get hit by them. And like most of his attacks, he finishes it with that forward lunge. The lunge also leaves him really vulnerable for a while because he appears to get stuck. So he can just attack his staff for a little while. This, just avoid the shockwaves. What you'll realise from doing Solus is that a lot of his attacks are based on the Dark Falz variants in original original PSO2. So for this one, you just need to be aware of when to block. You're blocking the ground that's exploding, but also blocking the blocks that are coming towards you. So you might need to parry several times for that part. Again, he's a little bit stunned, so we can go back to attacking the rod again. So I'm tending, for my combined techs, I'm tending to use Baransian, just because he's weak to light anywhere, and you can finish it off with a fully charged Barter. So again, we're trying to block the exploding floor. This is where I die, I think. Yeah. I'm totally wrong position there. Basically, what you want to do for that is just try and be on the opposite side to where Solus is on the map so that you're not in that area. So now we're getting close on low health now, and we've got a break at the end. And what you'll realise is that you can only do so much damage to Solus because he goes into this stage at the end. So what he does then, this is the most dangerous part of the fight by far. So what he does is he drops bombs all over the arena. He becomes untargetable. And he'll also just do explosions all over the arena. He will fire beams at the arena constantly. What you need to do is just destroy all of the bombs. He will just spam you with attacks at this point. You're constantly dealing with explosions from the bombs. You've got his beam shots coming in. Just focus purely on destroying these bombs as fast as possible. What is a good idea, though, is to try and keep Solus in your sight as much as you can as well. Because the last thing you want to do is let him get behind you, so where you can't see him. Because you need to know what Solus is doing as well. So you're sort of trying to keep him in your peripheral vision. What you'll probably notice is I'll try and spin the camera around to get Solus in my sight a little bit. So if I hadn't have had Solus in my sight there, I would have got hit by those blocks that were moving towards me. So again, we're just getting as much damage as we can in on these bombs. So it looks like we've got about 3 more. Yeah, a lot of his attacks are targeted on the ground so you can see where they're going to hit. So we've got 2 more left. I think we're down to our last one now by the looks of things. So once this one's destroyed, Solus comes crashing in. His rod gets destroyed and a core becomes available on his head. Now, you do need to be a little bit careful here because he does actually still try and nuke you. What you'll see is his wing parts here will flip up at one point. When he does this, he's about to do this explosion, so just be aware of that. He does still try and attack you now and again. But at this point, the fight is pretty much won. Just keep piling on the damage on him, and eventually you will come out on top. Again, I'm just cycling between Uncharged Grants and Rod Impact, really. That should be it. And there we go. That's Solus dealt with. So, as you can see, it's quite a frenetic fight, particularly in the second phase. So, overall, my tips for Solus, really, having done it a few times, is on first phase, really, all you want to be aware of, really, on Solus is on the first phase, it helps a lot to take out that core on his back initially. So this core on his back here, that's probably a good place to start. It's a nice point for people to sort of converge on and all pile damage onto, and it stops him from spamming those annoying missiles as well. So probably start with that. But really, for the first phase, the main thing you need to remember is just take care of the bombs as fast as you can. Because by destroying those bombs, you will expose the weak points on his arms, and it just helps to deal with the spacing as well. Those bombs, actually, because it's such a small arena in first phase, they take up a lot of the space. So just try and take care of them as fast as you can. Get the cores exposed on his arms, and just put as much damage as you can on the arms. The only other thing really you need to watch out for in first phase is that transition attack before he goes to second phase, where he starts raising the floor level. For that, it is just a DPS check. You just need to destroy the yellow cores as fast as you can, and just make sure that you are trying to keep as high up as you can as well, just to keep yourself above that line. For the second phase, really, a lot of it is just about watching Solus, watching the ground as well for the targeting info, and just making sure that your positioning is right. So, every time he does the attack where he puts the staff in the ground, you want to ideally try and get in the air, particularly with classes like Ranger or Force, where you don't need to be up close. It's a lot simpler to just stay in the air for those. You just avoid a lot of the damage altogether. But just be aware that he does combine a lot of his attacks together in second phase. So you might have a situation where you need to block several times in a short space of time. For example, he might put a bomb down and then also fire a laser in the same area. So in that case, you might need to parry or block twice. So just be aware of that. In second phase, really, it does seem to be, in the parties I've been in so far, it seems to be the general consensus that you tend to just go for his staff. Once that's broken, you can go for his chest core. And once his head core is available, you can go for that. And again, just remember that for his big nuke attack in second phase, just make sure that you are keeping those pillars in between you and Solus, just to make sure that he doesn't hit you, particularly with the big laser at the end. The smaller shots that he does, in my experience, do around about 300 to 400 damage each. But because he spams them rapidly, it will kill you really quickly if you get hit by a few of them. So just make sure that you've always got that pillar in between you and Solus to protect yourself. I think that's more or less it, really. In regards to the drops in the quest, there are some decent ones. So he might drop the 10-star series, which I can't remember the name of offhand. But I know he definitely drops the TISA 9 stars. I know that because one of my friends got one. So he does drop those as well, but obviously it's the usual drop rates for rare NGS stuff, so it is quite hard to get them. He also drops pretty decent capsules, and he seems to quite often drop arms refiners and arms refiner 2s as well, so that's fairly useful. But that's a general guide to Solus. I'm certainly not, by no means am I an expert at the fight. I've done it a few times, and I've got a general gist of how it works. But for people who've never done the initial quest that they added, it is quite a painful quest the first time you do it because there is so much going on. So I just wanted to do a very quick guide just to help people who might be struggling with the urgent quest version. Because I realise a lot of people probably aren't strong enough to do the special version with the limited incapacitations. Whereas anyone above the battle power can do this urgent quest version. So I just want to do a quick guide just to help people out with the quest and just make it a little bit easier for anyone who's having trouble with it. So if you've got any other tips for Solus, by all means leave them in the comments, because I realise he is probably the most difficult fight in NGS at the minute. Obviously the other version is more difficult, but this is the most difficult urgent quest probably. But yeah, just leave the comments below. I'll try and answer what I can. And if you've got any other tips for Solus, by all means, leave them there. Because although it might help me, but it also might help other players as well. So by all means, leave them below as well. And apart from that, hope you guys get some good runs on Solus and get some good drops. And I'll see you guys in the next video.